Good afternoon, YouTube. Home handyman again. I got a request. I did that hanging coat rack, and I made a comment on there that I had shown you how to do all of these different little odds and end projects. Then I realized I didn't really show you how to make one of these wine bottle holders like the Cowboy ones. So we'll do one today, and I'm going to do it in steps, and I'm not going to show you every single thing, but I'll show you how easy and fun these can be to do. So the first thing you want to do, we'll make one similar to this right here. Got the Cowboy standing, he'll hold the bottle, and there's a neck holder right there. It makes it look like the other Cowboy's drinking it. Now notice on this one, you can do this two ways. Here I just use half a horseshoe. Over here, I used a bent railroad spike. You could do it either way. It'll look fine. So we'll play around and we'll do that. Now I'm going to pause the video, and the first thing, well, I won't pause it. So the first thing that you're going to need to do, you're going to need to get a piece of pine wood or some kind of wood. I got this out at Lowe's. I think this piece was just like $3 or $4. It's, oh, let's see how long it is. A little over 3 feet. I think it was just a cutoff that was thrown in the junk bin, and I picked it up. So we'll just take a guess and then we'll make it work. Let's say about 17.5 inches. So right about here. Now I'm going to use a square, and I'm going to make a line, and that line will cut. Use a skill saw, use a jigsaw, whatever you happen to have. You can even cut it by hand. Okay, that'll be our base. So I'm going to pause this. First thing I'm going to do is cut it, and I'll be right back. And so now I cut this piece of wood to that 17.5 inches. I looked around because we're doing this for free for somebody, just as a little gift, and I have some Minwax. This is called fruit wood. It's a light stain. You can use anything you want. You can burn this wood. You can distress it by hitting it and damaging it all over. You can take that angle grinder with that flap disc and put divots and all kinds of stuff and burn it and play around and create your own finish. I'm going to make this one easy. I'm just going to use this fruit wood finish, and I'm going to apply it. Okay, that's it. I'm going to let that coat dry. If I think it's too light, I can apply another one. And I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the back just the same. We're going to let it dry, and then I'll be back. Now, I have a router. I routed the edge on this with a chamfer bit. You don't have to do that. You can make, with a jigsaw, you can make little round corners. You can leave it square. You can do whatever you want. I just happen to have a router and bits, and I just put an edge on it. Okay, let's let it dry and I'll be back. Okay, while we're waiting for that stain to dry on that wood, we'll lay out what we're going to use to build our two Cowboys. I need 6 horseshoes. I'm going to use these railroad ties. Now you don't have to. You can use like half cut, quarter cut, and that can do the body and neck portion. I just have the railroad ties laying around, and I cut them off 3.5 inches, and then I turned around with some, this is either 12 or 14 gauge sheet metal, and I made these little oblong pieces, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. But we're going to get everything ready. Last thing is we're going to weld, and then we'll just go straight on through with the welding. We'll finish it up. Now, one other thing you're going to need is a piece of pipe. Now, the piece of pipe to fit the neck of a bottle is usually got 1 1/4. You can use 1 1/2. I wouldn't go too big. Inch round pipe, and I'll show you right here. Okay, here's a better picture of it, and I've got my angle grinder right here, and I have a 60 grit sanding belt on there, and I'm going to sand it flat like this, and I'm going to bevel that edge, get rid of that sharp edge all the way around here. Okay, and then when we're done, we'll have what holds our bottle. Okay, so let me pause it, and I'll show you a little tool that you can make that will help you kind of speed things along when you're bending metal, as well as when you're making these little hats. Hang on just okay, what I have here is I had a piece of scrap diamond plate. I didn't even square it up. And then I put 3 different size pieces of pipe welded real close together. And I can put pieces of metal in there and bend. Or I'm going to use the top of this, and I'll show you how we're going to form those cowboy hats. Now on the bottom, I just took a piece of square tube and I tack welded it. That's all. Now this piece will go in the vise. I'll put this in there, and I'll show you what we'll do with the cowboy hats. Hold on one sec. Okay, so here's the cowboy hat, and I'm going to put it right on here. And I have a ball peen hammer. That's it. It's that easy, it's that fast. Okay, hang on and we'll set up for the next step. Okay, so I take 2 of these horseshoes and I approximate where the middle is, and I'm going to cut them, because these are going to be the hands. Whether you use a hacksaw, whether you use a cutoff saw, chop saw with an abrasive blade, whatever you want to use, cut them. And then we're going to bend the arms on these by anchoring it in a vise, and then we're going to whack it with a hammer, and I'll show you that in a minute. But let's get these cut and I'll be right back. Okay, now you're going to notice on the one, his hands are a little bit bent up. So we're going to take this and we're going to bend it. Okay, so I got it in the vise. I only got probably about 3/4 of an inch or so up. I take my big sledgehammer. That's it. Do the same thing to the other one, and we'll be right back. Now for this project, I've got to secure at least 2 of these, both cowboys, to that wood base. So what I'm going to do now, save myself a little bit of trouble, I'm going to drill holes here, 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 and here. Use a drill press, use a hand drill, whatever you like, your cordless. The bigger ones I'm going to use for his body. So for here, I would get either right around the middle probably. So if you wanted to mark these for the heck of it, you say, well, I'm going to drill a hole right here. So therefore, I'm going to drill a hole here. Now what's nice about this is where they put the nails, when they nail this onto the horse, these things are giving you reference points. So like over here, I mean, I can tell even on this one, well, I'll probably put it about right here. And we're probably going to put it about right in here. Okay, so, well, maybe a little down more. Make them as uniform as you can. Okay, so 4 holes on the drill press, and then we'll be about ready to weld. One sec, I'll set up the drill press, I'll show you that. And okay, I got the drill press set up, and I put a bit in there that's just a hair bigger than what a drywall screw can go through. So that way I drop the drywall screw in, I screw it down into the wood. Now in case I forget later on, when you screw drywall screws, especially with a cordless drill, you want to take and turn your setting way down, because you don't want to over tighten it. Even though they're incredibly hard screws, they're very brittle and they'll break, and if you break one off, well, you have a whole different issue you have to deal with. Okay, so each one of these we're going to drill 4 holes. I'll show you the first go around here. Okay, that's it. You're going to do the other one the same way, and I'll meet you right back at the bench and we'll start the welding. Hang on. Okay, so now I have these 2 horseshoes set up. I've got, here's his body, there's his legs, and I'm using one of these Harbor Freight magnets I keep talking about. They're very cheap to buy, and I'm using that as like a third hand. It's going to hold it for me, and I'm going to weld there. I'm going to weld there on the bottom, there on the bottom. Then we're going to start building our cowboys. So I'm going to do 2 of these and I'll be right back. Okay, so there I've welded it on and I turned him upside down. What you want to do next is take that railroad tie, find something to help you hold it up. I used a bolt, get it right in the middle, and I'm going to weld that next. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, there it is, and this is also, there it is, I went ahead and I welded it. This is also a great way for you to practice your welding skills. Mine's not the best in the world by no means, but I'm getting better at it. Okay, so that's done. Let's set him up and let's concentrate on the arms. One moment, I'll set everything up. Okay, the noise you hear in the background is my MIG welder running. What you can do, I used these magnets from Harbor Freight to build like a little piece of scaffold, and then I used a bolt to hold it and just tack weld these. I'm going to explain to you why right now. We have to bend these maybe a little bit to hold this bottle. See, it's sliding through. So with them only tack welded, you can tap on it each side to keep it uniform and bring it in a little bit. Therefore it'll hold this bottle. Right now it won't, but I don't have anybody to help me, so you learn how to do things by improvising. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap these in. I'll be right back and we'll go from there. Hold on. Okay, I got my MIG welder in the background and I got some wind blowing, so I'll try to talk up a little bit. I went ahead and I tapped these in with a small ball peen hammer that I got sitting over here. Right there. So that when I do this, see, look, it'll hold it. Okay, now we're going to do the hat next. So grab one of these, we'll take this one. Now I'm going to drill a couple of holes in here, nothing fancy, because we're going to put that on here and I'll be able with my MIG welder to shoot a weld through those holes, and it'll take this 14 gauge and this, and well, it'll weld them together. So I'll be right back and I'll show you how to do that. I went back over to that drill press and this is what I did, and I put a little bit of an elongated hole, so that way when I put it on here and I weld it, I try not letting the weld show under the hat. Looks a little sloppy sometimes. It's not impossible to do it, just this seems to be a little bit cleaner way of doing it. Let me weld this on, I'll be right back. There's a close-up right there, it's still hot, that's the weld. Say, okay, so what's next? Well, let's make his hat. So I'm gonna just put that on there. Now the only thing I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna fill the inside of this with weld. And I'll stop the video and I'll be right back. Okay, there it is. It's still glowing red hot too. So, but it's on there. He's done. We have the screw holes down at the base here. He's ready to wipe down with a little bit of acetone. We'll give him a good paint. I'm going to try this black that's got a real faint metallic something or another to it. It's texture paint. I'll show it to you in a minute. This texturing paint I found down at True Value. It works fantastic for hiding a lot of little defects. Let me show you. Okay, this is what I picked up. This is like a real dark gray with some textured flake to it. This is more like a bronze. So the bronze might look better now that I'm thinking about it, because we did a light staining on that wood. So we'll probably go with bronze here. Okay, let's start working on the second guy. and we'll begin to wrap some of this up. Okay, time to work on the second guy. I was going to make him standing up, but then I thought, no, let's make another one with him sitting down on a stump. The reason for that is you can see what goes into doing these cowboy figurines in like different ways of bending the metal and doing things. What I did is I put this in the vise, set it to the height you think looks pretty good, and we're going to bend these forward. So it looks like he's sitting with, like, you know, his knees bent. Don't go too far down because it won't look right. So this right here, to give you a rough idea, just so you know when we're done, it's about 1.5 inches sticking up out of the vise. Now you're going to hit both sides of this with that sledgehammer. Okay, so you don't want to bend these all the way down to the curve of the vise. You just want to bend them till they're straight. So you're done with that part. I'm going to take it over the bench, set it up. I'll show you what we'll do next. What I did is I used those magnets again, and I took the bent part. So here's the bend of his knee. And again, you can use those nail holes that they use for shoeing to give you an alignment. It works out good. It's a good reference point. So I have it like this. Now I'm going to just spot MIG weld these in, and I'll be right back. Okay, you can see that I took and I used the magnets again, and then I put the spike here and I centered it, got it how I wanted it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tack weld it, I'm going to weld this up permanently, then we'll move on to the arms and then onto the hat. Hold on just a sec, and you can see these magnets come in as a wonderful, here, there you go, there's a shot with his rear end kind of sticking up, and right here you can see where I welded it across, and this is done. So we'll set it up and we'll weld the arms. Okay, so again you can see how I use the magnets here to create this scaffolding, and I put the round bottle holder in and I tack welded it. I tack welded this. Now I'll go back and permanently weld it now that I know that I have these brought in close enough to hold this. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, here's where people mess up. Now let's make a dry run. There's the first one we did. There he is holding up the bottle. And I'm coming down to where the one's going to be sitting. Now, you want to make sure that this is sliding into there at a decent angle. So you set this up like you're going to be anchoring it to the wood, but you haven't done it yet. And you see that it is. Then you go ahead and finish off your welds here, because now you have a chance to raise it, lower it, or do whatever you want before you do your final welds. So let's do the final welds and I'll be right back. Again, there's the top of the hat, well, the hat, and we're going to put this little nut on there and then fill it full of weld like last time, and I'll be right back. And there's the hat. So let's cool this off. I'm going to go run it under cold water. I'll be right back, and then we'll work on the little tree stump. Okay, so what you want to do at this point, or what I do, is line this up for a test fit. Nothing is secured yet. And then I put little tiny marks, okay, so I know where this goes, because we're going to go put a finish on this wood, and we're going to drive a drywall screw through the back up into here to hold this log. Now I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to remove this, and then I'll show you we're going to put a bunch of gloss coats. I use Rust-Oleum ultra cover gloss. That's what I use because I really like this stuff. Anyway, hold on and I'll get everything prepared. Okay, now I drilled a couple of pilot holes with a small drill through the back. No chance on it splitting, and I'm going to drive it up into that piece of wood. I also use this. It's a bit, it gives me a concave area at the bottom. Like that. That way the screws will be inset into the wood, and they'll be kind of flush or inset, and they won't rub when this thing sits down. Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm going to switch bits back over to my drill bit. Okay, just like that. We're going to line our wood up, Hang on just a minute, I gotta move this. Alright, let's see what we got here. Alright, I'll line it up with my marks. Alright, there's one. Now that's going to hold it in there pretty sturdy. So with the one, now I can tweak this however I want. And that looks pretty good, right like that. So, let me get my other drywall screw on here. Just like this. There you go. Now, that's permanently on there. Now, we're going to coat this, and I'll show you what I use in just a moment. Okay. I use this right here. Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover Gloss Clear. This stuff is great. I'm going to put a couple of coats on here. I'll be right back. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. Here's our piece of wood. It's got one coat on there. There's our finish. We have 2 coats on there at this point. I'm going to let this sit for about 20-30 minutes and we'll come back to it. Okay, time's gone by. This base has gotten nice and hard, but it's not totally hard. The finish is still soft on it. It dries after 20 minutes, 30 minutes to touch. But I read on the can it's like about 5 days for it to fully harden. But it's good enough right now. I went ahead and I set the little guy back on here. Went through the holes that we made and used some drywall screws. And then you want one more time. One last test fit. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we have the other guy right where he should be. We're going to put those screws in. I have this set at about 6 on my drill. Don't over tighten these. If you do and they snap, you have no idea. You have to, if you'll be lucky, you can relocate it, but it's a pain. So take your time. Okay, let's get a close-up of what we just did. Okay, there's a little bit of a close-up, not a real good one. I'll try to pan around this slowly. So we just finished this. It looks pretty darn good, actually. And this was a lot of fun to do, and it's quick and easy. Now you can spend a little bit more time on these if you want to, and you can add more detail. You can make the finger, let's zoom in here. You can, okay, there's a zoom in close-up shot. I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, questions and answers. It's evening time, and I thought I'd do a recap on something where I had somebody say, well, they're not sure if they can really do the things like I'm doing with horseshoes and spikes and stuff like that. Well, yeah, you can. Okay, so let me explain something. I started playing around with horseshoes and railroad spikes and stuff like that because when I didn't have a lot of money, wasn't sure if I really wanted to put the money into welding and doing stuff like that. So I thought, well, what's a cheap way to play around and have some fun? And through a Google search, I came across people doing things out of horseshoes, and there was a little wire funky one, and I made this right here for my neighbor, and the hot dog slips over here, and you set it on your grill and close the lid, and it cooks. And now this is simple to do. It's very easy to make. I did a YouTube on it. You just need to get out there and try it, okay, and not think that you can't do it. You can. Okay, I am going to go step by step, pausing and starting and pausing and starting. And I'm going to show you lots of things I've done with horseshoes and just goofing around. And it's actually fun, and it has a lot of utility if you just apply yourself and try it. Hang on a minute, we'll comment on each one as we go. This is a project we made a while ago. I have a YouTube video on this on how to do it. It's a very simple project. It doesn't take long at all, and it's a lot of fun. I sell these to friends of mine at work, and my daughter has friends down valley where she goes riding her horse, and they've bought them from me for the inside of their tack rooms, houses, hallways, whatever. And so you can make a little bit of money too. And the materials are not expensive. They're cheap. You can get these horseshoes from any farrier. You can buy them online off of eBay. There's different places to go to. Railroad spikes, I buy mine off of eBay. Okay, I'm going to pan around some more. We'll find some other projects and we'll talk about them briefly. Okay, I'm showing you a video clip of my welder. There's my plasma cutter, but this is a cart that I built. And up here are horseshoes and railroad spikes on each side. This is where I wrap my coils. Now if we travel down below here, right about there, this right here is all horseshoes, and they've got the half curved. I cut them in half and then weld them where they curve out for hanging things. And if I lift it up down here, you'll see it's got a couple of bolts on there. Makes it look like a moose's head or something. And we're just playing around. I saw a picture of it online and it was easy to duplicate. So let's talk about cost for a minute. Well, the horseshoes are costing me about $1 a piece, give or take. So there's nothing to it. Railroad spikes are about the same price, maybe a little bit cheaper. Okay, so let's find some more projects and talk about them. I'm not sure how these are going to come out because of the lighting. I'm inside and it's evening time. But this right here was made out of horseshoes and just some scrap wood and a cut off branch. This right here is just a piece of pipe. I just cut a piece off of it. And well, that's what it'll do. It'll hold a wine bottle. And I sell these too. People think they're pretty cool. If you're interested, email me if you want to buy one. So, yeah, this one right here is a Cowboy. He's got a rope. It's on a piece of wood. Looks pretty cool. You can set stuff on there. Just like this, your wine bottle. This up here is strong enough to hold something you want to put in his rope. So that's pretty cool too. Okay, here's another one of the Cowboy sitting on a branch. I just cut the branch and just glued it on there, screwed it on there. Again, it would hold a wine bottle. This one's at a little bit of an angle. That's what the person wanted. Again, easy to do. You got 1, 2, 3 horseshoes. Here's a railroad spike, or you can use half of a horseshoe. Okay, here's one of a Cowboy riding a steer or a bull. And you can just slip the wine bottle right into there like that. And it looks pretty darn cool. People seem to like these too. Still got enough shelf space to set things below. Okay, here's one that I did, just a piece of scrap pine wood from out at Home Depot. Put a little stain on it, put a finish on it, and each one of these is 3 horseshoes, railroad spike, and this is one guy holding up a bottle for his buddy to drink who's sitting on a log. So that's pretty neat. There's 2 Cowboys. This one over here, he's lassoed it. He's got it around the neck and around the body. This is pretty neat too, and again, it's just a cheap piece of pine down here. I put a reddish colored stain on there, and this looks pretty good too, and I used black paint that had a little bit of flake in it. Excuse me. Okay, this one I'll pan up is just a Cowboy standing there tilting the bottle up and drinking. And again, it's the same inexpensive pine wood that I used for the base. Real quick and easy. Again, 3 horseshoes. Okay, here's one of the Cowboys sitting on a log in back of, there's a tree in front of him. Again, there's the wine bottle. Makes good counter pieces. People like them. They're nice little novelty gifts. And again, It's just a piece of wood that I used a chainsaw, and I cut this piece of wood. It's thick. And then I just went over it with my sander, and I used epoxy and screws to put the branch down. It's very easy to make, and they're cool. It's got some green flaked glitter. I tried something different with this to match a green bottle that the people had. So, okay, and here's one on a fairly light piece of wood, and here he's holding a cup. Okay, the cup is nothing more than a galvanized fitting, and it's just like this. And he's holding it up for his friend and pouring it into a cup. So this one people get a kick out of too. I've sold a few of these. So, and they're very easy to make, and the wood is very inexpensive. Okay, here's one where I took a piece of pine and I used my Bernzomatic torch, and I burned the wood. Then I sanded it very lightly, and then I put a finish on it. And this is a cowboy. He's falling back, leaning against that tree. And just set the wine bottle in there. And, well, there you go. So, look, I got a whole table of these things. I mean, I could go on and on showing them to you. I just put them together, put them against branches, trees, or sitting them on, you know, like a little stump. It's a lot of fun to do. You will get better at your welding, that's for sure. And I just use drywall screws because they're cheap. And I use a little epoxy sometimes. It just depends on what I'm doing. And these are very fun. They're very easy to make. Okay, over here on the far right, that's it's a coat rack, but I only put three, I only put 3 hooks on it. The one in the middle is a star I made for a friend of mine. He's going to come pick it up. It's made out of railroad ties, and it's got 3 horseshoes and 1 sticking out. It's pretty dang heavy, really, but that's what he wanted. Here, right here in front of us, there's another 3-position one. I made this one really dark. Now, out of all those cutoffs from those railroad spikes, you say, well, what do you do? Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, out of all those scrap pieces of the railroad spikes, rather than throw them away, practice your welding. I made these in 3 different configurations. It's like a star pattern, and it has a railroad tie sticking out. You can hang them on a wall, use them for a 1-hook coat rack, or throw your hat on it or whatever. You can space them and wrap cords around them. I don't know, whatever you want to do, but I didn't want to just throw them in a scrap bin and call it done. I want to practice my welding skills and still make something a little useful. So you can do stuff like this. Okay, this is one I did out of just scrap the same way, laying down, and he's holding a bottle. Okay, that's it for this video. Click subscribe, give me a thumbs up. But you really ought to think about playing around and having some fun with this, and you can make some money on the side to feed your hobby. It's inexpensive to get into, doesn't cost much, and I've shown you how to do it with how-to videos. Questions and answers, just leave me a comment. I won't do a question and answer session. This has been straightforward, and I already have how-to videos out there on how to do everything. Thank you folks very much. You all have a good day. Bye-bye.